YouTube? This is Tyre Metalhead Weatherman. Hopefully you guys have had a good weekend. Hopefully you guys have had a good Sunday. Well, things are starting to pick up probably right now if you're in the northern plains. Storms are starting to initiate now. We're getting to the real meat of the weather now for the night. And things will only be picking up throughout the week for some of you. And we're going to go ahead and touch up on all of that real quick. So without further ado, we're just going right in. First thing to really talk about is the storms that are firing on the west side of the slight risk. These kind of have a little bit of a supercellular look, but I think they're going to go linear really fast. During this point is also where we have a little bit of a tornadic concern, not too much of one, but the threat is there, so these storms will have to be watched really closely, so keep an eye on your local weather station here for the possible threat of a tornado. But I am expecting these storms to very quickly turn into a line of thunderstorms into the night and produce mostly damaging winds. Hail isn't out of the question either, but I'm mainly just going to be looking towards damage. I'm mainly looking for damaging winds tonight. So that's our slight risk area, and then there's a marginal risk down here towards northern Texas. Not expecting a bunch out of that area, but the risk is there, so do pay a little closer attention to those storms just in case. But what I really am wanting to talk about is the severe weather threat for Monday, because boy, did things change for this very quickly. A lot of people were kind of writing this off. I was looking at it like, well, maybe this could go up to slight risk. I'm not too certain about it, but the Cape values were always a little bit higher in this region, plus the dew points. And that was just looking into the long range models. Well, once we got to look at the short range models, things really started to uptick with this. So I think this move was a little bit inevitable. I don't know if there's any room to put this up any further. Like I'm not expecting an enhanced risk or higher than that, but there are parameters that lead me to think that we may be looking at a little bit more than just a wind threat here. The lapse rates aren't super high, so the hail threat may not be there, but there is a small tornado threat here now that's including the areas of Dallas, that's just to the east of Dallas actually, but Waco, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, and maybe just to the north of Corpus Christi here, we could be dealing with the spin-up tornado being possible. The setup is pretty similar to what we have going on over towards the north and east, but Cape values are a little bit higher, but there's a little bit better vertical wind shear, and there's pretty solid low-level flow and mid-level flows. Dew points are higher here, so the setup's just all out better for severe weather around this region. And the setup on Tuesday, the following day, is just as impressive, if not more. We'll go ahead and look at the parameters here, but one thing I will note with all three of these days is that the Cape values are not that high. I think the best day for Cape, really, at my honest opinion, it's going to be on tomorrow, actually. But we're going to be close to the Gulf anyway, so of course we're going to have... so of course the Cape values and the dew points tend to go hand in hand. I've said this a bunch. So if you're close to the Gulf, you tend to usually be a little bit more... you tend to be a little bit more humid, I would say. Trying to look through here and see if I can get some good Cape values here, and I do see some areas where we're hitting above 1,000. Usually that's sufficient enough for some severe weather, albeit on a limited scale. It's not like you can't get a strong storm out of that. For a thunderstorm, to put it simply, you need about 500 joules. You get about 750. It gets stronger, and once you get to about 1,000, you're starting to get into that severe criteria. Not to say that you can't have less than that to get a severe storm, but usually that's one of the key points that you look towards. But this is tricky stuff, so it's kind of hard to really explain it well. I'll try to do a more in-depth video on that in that little playlist that I promised you guys. So we'll move this along here, and we'll work our way into Tuesday for the Cape values. And all you have to do is look down, and you'll already see a distinct difference. We're starting to get into those blues, and maybe even a couple hints of that tannish yellow look in there, where we're getting into that maybe even that 2,000 joules per kilogram area. And then late in the evening, it looks like it dies off pretty quick. Then we'll start to see a little bit of a... Oh, I'm actually going the wrong way. Well, there's a blooper for you guys. There's a live blooper for you guys. We go into Tuesday here. The Cape values actually aren't that impressive, but there are some where we're starting to get into that 1,000 to 1,500 joule. And we'll go ahead and try and see if we can't snag a sounding out of this, get an idea of what could be going on here. And if you look here, look at that hazard type here, tornado, curve in the hordeograph, definitely looking a bit vertical. There's not a lot of directional shear, but there is going to probably be some speed shear, and we'll look at the bulk shear in a minute. But you can look and see there's plenty of instability in this part of the atmosphere here. Cape's at 1,700. Dew points are high. Temperatures are sufficient. This might be something worth watching here too. We'll roll this along to the end, and then we're going to the bulk shear here. But even then, like I said, there's isolated spots where the Cape's going to be high. This isn't going to be that type of event where we're going to have widespread severe weather. There might be some storms within that pocket of the slight risk here that may end up being big time and may produce the entire trifecta, but it's not going to be like the springtime where you're looking at every storm having the potential for this. This very well looks like it could also be a conditional type setup as well. Any one little thing could change this. Just a small difference in cloud cover within a forecast could change a lot. So let's go ahead and take a look at our bulk shear here. So here we are looking at bulk shear from the low to actually even the high levels of the atmosphere now. Basically, we're looking for anything that's about 40, 50 knots plus. We're going to definitely be reaching that without too much issue here. Well, I don't know why we're on 12Z, NAM here. We're supposed to be on 18. I find that pretty odd. Alright, let's see how quickly this loads, because the wind maps are always the ones that I have the hardest time with on my computer. But it looks like we might be fine this time. Yeah, it actually looks like we're okay for now. Let's make sure though, because I hate giving the expectation that things should flow smoothly and then it doesn't. So tonight it definitely looks like we reached that 40, 50. We even start to look like we pushed towards 60 to 65 knots here. And then when we move this into Monday evening, we're definitely in that little mark we're definitely in that area where we're hitting that 60, 65 maybe even now. And then by Tuesday, I think that's when we're going to get some of the highest values that we've seen. Or no, it's actually going to be about the same. No, we do push towards 70 actually. There's a couple areas where it's kind of streaks up towards 70, and like I said, it looks like it definitely has good vertical wind shear. Kind of hard to say as to whether or not it would be a situation in which we would have good speed shear. So the tornado threat's there, but I'm not so sure how dangerous the threat will be in total. But it is something that needs to be watched after very closely. Let's go ahead and take a look at the dew points, and then we'll take a look at what the radar looks like, and then we're going from that point. Okay, just checking the video on the time here. We'll run this in a loop here. We're on 12Z again. I don't know why it keeps doing that. 18Z's been out for a while. So odd. Alright, here we go. Let's try this again. Dew points do end up getting into the 60s in this region tonight, but it's going to be at a time where the upper level forcing isn't going to quite be strong enough, and it just skipped out on me getting what I wanted to see for tomorrow's threat. But it doesn't really need, I don't need to say too much. I mean, once you see these dew points getting in the mid 60s like they are right here, severe weather threat is always going to be a little bit higher. So I'm very interested to see how things will end up unfolding around southeastern Texas tomorrow, of course. And then once we get into the southeast, especially towards the late afternoon, we're getting those dew points into the mid to upper 60s. Some places even getting into the 70s here. It's definitely going to be a point of concern. And even Alabama, I'm going to be watching you a little bit closer too with these higher dew points. I do think the upper level forcing starts to weaken by this point though, so storms will be a little bit more limited. By the time we get towards Georgia, I think the storms will really start to lose their oomph. Can't rule out some storms maybe towards downtown Atlanta and areas to the south possibly, but by that point the upper level forcing is moving north, so it's going to be harder to get storms to fire in that area. So let's lastly go ahead and look at the potential reflectivity here over the next 60 hours. Just kind of get an idea of what could be happening next. And we'll go ahead and just run this in a straight up loop. And here's our big snowstorm right here in the northeast and then the northern plains here in the northwest. Here's our first severe event. Then here comes the main event of that. Big line of storms, mainly leaning towards damaging winds. Could be a bow echo type event. Not sure if I want to call it a derecho, but it does look like these storms may have the ability to sustain themselves for a while as these storms start to push their way into Mississippi on Tuesday. Because it looks like these storms just hold together the entire time. And then these storms do kind of look like they expand a little bit further north than what the Storm Prediction Center's been showing me, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see how that plays out as well. Still some unknowns in the forecast. I'm sure we'll see some updates by tomorrow morning. If there's anything major, I'll try to make a video first thing in the morning for that. But beyond that though, this is all I got for you guys on this video tonight. If you like what I've been doing, drop me a like. And let me know in the comments what you think of the upcoming weather events, especially if your area is involved. Are you prepared? What are you going to do to prepare, so to speak? And are you looking forward to seeing storms? But yeah, just feel free to interact on here. I don't bite. I love talking storms especially. But also I noticed that about 70% of you people that have been watching recently have not been subscribed, are not subscribed to the channel. So my question to that is, hey, what are you doing? It's free. If you want to watch these videos more, all you got to do is click a button. And if you don't want to miss a video again, just click the bell, man. But yeah, that's all I got for you. Enough rambling. This has been Metalhead Weatherman. I will see you guys soon.